You should be seeing Prosperity Teachings version 30.20.22. Okay, so I've shared this many times with you, and there's probably new people listening. Unanswered questions are far less dangerous than unquestioned answers. And in the run-up to my presentation, I wanted to share with you some of the things I heard and some of the things I saw that, for me, are unquestioned answers for a lot of people. This idea that the universe is flowing through us negates the idea that this capital U universe, this spirit, this divinity, is present in its entirety at every point in space, all at the same time. So there's no need for it to flow. The entirety of the divine is at the point of view. It doesn't flow. And then another unquestioned answer is all this stuff about the law of attraction. I think the law of attraction is a distraction from what's really happening. And what's really happening is when we have thoughts and feelings, we then attract ourselves to what we desire. They are not attracted to us. And so a better name would be the law of affinity. When I have thoughts and feelings about something, I have affinity for that. When I have a desire and a craving for dark chocolate and I'm thinking and feeling it at depth, it doesn't just show up in my mouth. It doesn't show up in my hands. It doesn't show up in my house if there's none here. But if I have those thoughts and feelings about dark chocolate, I will go about getting it. We do not attract things or people to us. We attract ourselves to them. It seems like a subtle change, but it's huge, folks, because it puts the control where it's always been, within ourselves. And so Jesus said, you must know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. And that truth, my friends, is about yourself. It's about you, and it's about me. When we know these fundamental truths, we stand in the realization of our power. And as a reminder, God is principle, neither he nor she, God is it. By the term mind, we mean God, the universal principle, which contains or includes all principles. I keep going back to this because we have so much coming in from the outside that influences us back to the old way of thinking. Now, in my previous 2 talks, I set up the idea what we're really talking about here is divine ideas. The Christ is defined as the idea that contains all ideas. That idea contains these divine ideas, plus all the other little I ideas we can make up from them. So you are fully divine. The entirety of the divine is present at the point of view, the point of everybody, all at the same time. So yeah, it is out there. It is in here. But at every point in space, it's identical. So in our divinity, we are identical. In our humanity, we are wondrously unique. And in fact, we are manifesting our humanity from our divinity. The divinity isn't expressing us. We are expressing it. I'm going to say that again. Our divinity isn't expressing us. We are expressing it. And it is so huge. Every divine idea is infinite. And so we must limit those ideas to something very specific to get our individuality, to get our personality, to get our bodies. And we talked about limitation last week, and we're going to talk about it again. Now, this quote that I'm about to share is a key quote that I discovered in Unity magazine from May 1920 that helped shift my point of view. So let's see if that happens with you. We already have all the power there is. We have all the divine idea of power, or power of power, or power of dominion that there is. But you and I decide how we use it. Last week, I gave you the quote about power, that if we send it out in hate, it destroys. If we send it out in love, it builds. And there's a whole range of possibilities we can use that power. Well, E.V. Ingraham, who wrote this, is one of my favorite writers. And here's what he said. Alexa, turn off the alarm. I did that again, guys. So E.V. Ingraham didn't say that. He said, we have had the power to demonstrate disease in the face of omnipresent health. Did you hear that? We have had the power to demonstrate disease in the face of omnipresent health. Poverty in the presence of inexhaustible substance. That should be a wow moment. So even in the face of the principles of health, wholeness, life, we can demonstrate disease. How? By over-limiting those principles. Even in the face of the infinity of possibilities we have, in the face of the very principle of abundance, we can still use our power to demonstrate lack or poverty. And so what this is saying is, we already have all the power there is. We have had the power to demonstrate disease in the face of the omnipresent divine idea of health and wholeness and life. And we can and do manifest poverty in the presence of the inexhaustible divine idea. I hope that's a wow moment. So let's go back to some of the former terms. God is our source. God is our source. God is our supply. God is our substance. But friends, that's saying the same thing. God is our resource. Principle is our resource. Divine idea is our resource. So when we say God is our source or God is our resource, that's almost too vague. But when we know that divine idea is our resource, then it gets a little more specific. And remember, when it's vague, it stays vague. What happens in vagueness stays in vagueness. And so then this is why it's important for us to know these divine ideas or know these principles, because then we can use them more consciously. So it's all about divine ideas, which are unchanged, unchanging, unchangeable constants and concepts. And as I demonstrated last week, all ideas can be used by an infinite number of people, an infinite number of times to get an infinite number of results without ever being used up. And if I share an idea with you, it seems to grow. So these unchangeable, infinite and potential ideas must be limited down to relative ideas in our own consciousness. And it's really ideas and thoughts and feelings. And that, my friends, is how we manifest. So, as a reminder, God does not give us material things, but mind substance, not money, but ideas. You see in that quote that Charles is equating substance with ideas, divine ideas, and their derivative thoughts and feelings within you and within me. So friends, it's not raining money. It's raining ideas, not money. So say with me, I am strong, immovable spirit substance. And Charles claimed that this will open the door of your mind and my mind to an inflow of substance-filled ideas. But they're not flowing in, they're flowing into our awareness. They're coming into our awareness. They're already 100% there at the point of view. And then using the language of his time, he says, they are God's ideas given to you in answer to your prayer and in order to supply your needs. But they're already yours. You see? If God truly is divine ideas and God is present in its entirety at every point in space, all at the same time, every last divine idea is present at the point of view all the time. So let's connect this a little bit to prayer now, because it is through the power of our thinking, feeling natures that we bring things into manifestation. So this is a great quote from Jesus Christ Heals. Read it with me. Concentrated attention of the mind on an idea of any kind is equal to prayer of any kind. That's a good idea, a bad idea, an infinite idea, an ugly idea. When we are concentrating on any idea in our mind, it's just as if we're praying. In fact, we are praying. And that process will make available universal principles or divine ideas that are the idea's source in proportion to the intensity and continuity of the mental effort. Now, that's a lot of words, but what that is simply saying is when we concentrate our attention on an idea, a relative idea, something we want, something we desire, and we hold it with intensity and continuity. It's not a one-time thing, just you're holding it with continuity. Then what you're doing is you're putting a demand on this infinite field of potential that's made up of these divine ideas. And they are the resource that you're using then to produce what you desire. And desire is key. Charles said, sincere desire is a form of prayer. And remember, in my metaphysical philosophy, desire is one of the attributes of the power of love. It's our ability to desire. And don't you know that you move from desire to desire to desire from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed? And Napoleon Hill said this, desire backed by faith knows no such word as impossible. Wow. And so Charles and Cora said, and teach us to pray, a prayer without desire in it, a prayer without sincerity in it, a prayer without soul in it, and a prayer without spirit in it is a fruitless prayer. So we must have desire, we must have sincerity, must have soul. Soul here means your personality. And then spirit would be the divine, it would be divine ideas. So this becomes, in a more positive way of saying it, a prayer with desire in it, a prayer with sincerity in it, a prayer with personality in it, and a prayer with principle in it is a fruitful prayer. What's this saying? We have to be all in. You have to be all in if you want to manifest your heart's desires. And how do we do that? Last week, I shared about the law of expression, that everything moves from the abstract to the concrete, from the formless to the formed. I can say from the infinite to the finite. Earlier, I said, you are manifesting your humanity from your divinity. Your divinity is abstract. Your divinity is formless. Your divinity is infinite. Your humanity is concrete. Your humanity is formed. Your humanity is finite. But you're doing that. So God is divine idea or principle. It's abstract. And then we must take that idea, we must limit it, define it, focus, form it, refine it, specify. Those are all names students preferred, except they didn't prefer limit. And the whole process is about limiting. So we have an idea, we have an inner experience of the idea, we manifest something concrete, outer manifestation. So let's look at an example. So you desire a garden. And in order to make that garden, you have to limit it in some way, because garden is abstract. A specific garden is not. And that's how we get an actual garden. We have to desire the garden. And how do we move from the abstract to the actual garden? Desire. Desire is driving the process of limitation. Okay, I'm going to switch now to the whiteboard. Let's see if I can do that. Okay, are you seeing the whiteboard? Yeah, so let's just look how this works, okay? So if in the define, and I believe this, there are the principles of life, wholeness, and health. Those are vague, those are abstract, right? Those are vague and abstract concepts. Okay, so how do we get health? How do we get a healthy body? Well, we do it by limiting those abstract ideas until we get a healthy body. Now look, healthy body. Look, this whole process of manifesting our body, we're not directly aware of it, but this is how it works. Now, we've limited life, health, and wholeness down to something very specific, a healthy body, and we demonstrate a healthy body. Now, what happens if you overlimit those? If you go a little further, what happens? Oops, a draw, come on. What happens if you overlimit life, health, and wholeness? What do you think you get? You get a sick body. And what do you think you get if we limit it way too much? We get a dead body. Okay, so let's talk about our prayer process. So someone shows up with you with a sick body, okay, and they want you to pray, okay? Our job, you can put the spotlight on here. Our job is to move in consciousness from an idea of sick body to healthy body. But how do we do that? Well, in consciousness, we have to move back to here and then limit it one more time in our mind for that person to here. So we have to limit life, health, and wholeness less to get back to a healthy body. The same is true if we want to talk about abundance. how do we get lack of abundance? How do we get lack? Well, I can see this. If we over limit the idea of abundance, we get lack. And if we're experiencing that, we have to limit it less by first going back to the unlimited and then coming back down so that we get what we desire. Now, that just shows you the general process. Unity's process, in any prayer process, when a person has a sick body, they desire a healthy body. And the way we get it is by going back to the beginning, to the infinite field of potential, and limiting it differently this time. Same thing with lack. We go back to the beginning. We go back to these infinite ideas and limit them differently. But what we get to work with are divine ideas. We get ideas in our minds that are related to it. And if we don't act on them, nothing happens. You can't just think and feel the ideas. We must take action. Oh, joy. It looks like we're back. Oh, let me go down here. Okay, so we went to the whiteboard. So limitation is not the problem. Limitation is the process. Over limitation is the problem. And when we over limit, we get lack. And so we must talk about supply and demand. And this comes from Emily Cady. There is already provided a lavish abundance for every human want. And if you read this like I did way back, I thought God provided everything. God was the provider. And then she goes on to say, in other words, the supply of everything always awaits the demand. There is already provided a lavish abundance of divine idea for every human want, every human desire. In other words, the supply of divine ideas for everything always awaits the demand. There's a scripture that says, decree a thing. Well, you have to decree it in your mind first so that you begin drawing on those infinite divine ideas as resource. And remember, divine ideas are potential forces waiting to be set in motion through proper formative vehicles. The thinking, feeling faculties in us are such vehicles. We activate the divine ideas that we are. Divine ideas do not activate us. And it's through the formative power of our thought and word, the formative power of our thought and word is governed by our faith. You can have the desire, but you must have the faith. Faith in ourselves and the vehemence with which we think and speak. Vehemence, strength, power, strongly, not these little meek, vehemently. You got to claim it. You got to put a demand on it. You got to decree a thing. Faith is conviction plus expectancy. So we are not of small beginnings, but of infinite beginnings. Our resource is infinite potential. And we draw our substance, we draw our divine ideas from this inexhaustible store, which is present right here. We are never, ever at a loss for supply. We are not of small beginnings, but are the divine. Our resource is infinite divine idea. and we draw a divine idea as related thoughts and feelings from this inexhaustible store. We are never at a loss for divine ideas. Jesus said, all authority hath been given unto me in heaven and on earth. What does that mean? Heaven and earth are two states of mind, the ideal and the manifestation. One is in the realm of pure ideas and the other of thought forms, and I'll say thought and feeling forms. Jesus said, all authority hath been given unto me over the realm of pure ideas and of thought forms. So say that to yourself. All authority hath been given unto me over the realm of pure ideas and of thought forms. So say this with me. I am not of small beginnings. That would be a great denial or release. I am not of small beginnings. I am master of all ideas. I am master of all ideas. That would be divine ideas and our relative mind ideas. And remember, you and I are the ones manifesting those relative ideas from the divine ideas. And it's up to you and me to act on them. I can think dark chocolate till I'm blue in my face, but nothing happens. I don't have the taste of dark chocolate. I don't eat the dark chocolate unless I take action. And when we have those thoughts and feelings and we use the law of mind action to build them up, we build more thought substance and we are inclined to take more action. More action. Remember, consciousness is awareness plus arousal plus motivation. We don't attract things and people to us. We attract ourselves to things and people according to our affinity for them. And that would be the truth of the prosperity teachings of 3.20.22. That was a lot. I hope you gained at least one good idea from that. But remember, you are infinite idea and finite human, never separate, always one. And so it is. Thank you, everyone. So now let's have our time for meditation. This would be a good time to own as many of these concepts and ideas as you possibly can. So let us take another deep breath. And repeat after me. I am divine. I am infinite potential. I am divine idea. I am human. I have personality and I have a body. Feel the truth of that. You are wondrously infinite and uniquely finite. I am infinite and I am finite. Let's say that together. I am infinite and I am finite. And friends, your infinite potential is always there. It never changes. Unchanged, unchanging, unchangeable. And your humanity is malleable, it's changeable. If you don't like something about yourself, you have sole responsibility for changing that. You are the choice maker for your lives. You are the manifester of your life. And so now let's take that concept, I am fully divine and fully human, into a time of silence. You are, I am fully divine and fully human. You are, I am master of the realm of divine ideas and the realm of human thoughts and feelings. No one, no thing can make you think or feel anything. You and only you are the master of your choices. Repeat after me. I am master of my choices. Now let's add a little more energy to that and say it again. I am master of my choices. And now let's say it the way Charles and Cora said we should say it. Let's say it vehemently with dominion. I am master of my choices. And so you are, and so I am, and so it is. Amen.